तो आगे बढ़ते हुए नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन की तरफ अगर हम जाएं, एम एडवांसेस टू एन, राइट, पैसे दिए यहाँ, एम हैज गिवन मनी टू एन, हाउ मच, सम ऑफ रुपीज 5,000 ऑन द गारंटी ऑफ पी। सो यहाँ अगर हम लोग जल्दी से मार्क करना शुरू कर दे, पी इज द गारंटर इन दिस केस, एम ने एडवांस किया है पैसा, तो मिलना किसको चाहिए, एम को मिलना चाहिए, तो एम विल टर्न इनटू हूम, द क्रेडिटर, राइट। पैसे किसको दिए हैं, एन को दिए हैं, so over here n becomes the principal debtor as we just gain knowledge of the same, right। और यहाँ वर्ड भी गारंटी यूज कर दिया है, बहुत इजी हो गया आपके लिए। लोन कैरीज इंटरेस्ट ऑफ 10% per annum, subsequently n becomes n, यानी the principal debtor becomes financially embarrassed। On n's request, m reduces the rate of interest to 6%, right। यहाँ कितना था 10% द ओरिजिनल इंटरेस्ट रेट, यहाँ देखते हैं 6% पर एनम, एंड डज नॉट सू एन फॉर 1 year आफ्टर द लोन बिकम्स ड्यू। ये एक ट्रैप है, इसको थोड़ा ध्यान से समझते हैं अगर हम लोग। नाउ एन बिकम्स इंसॉल्वेंट लेटर ऑन, कैन एम सू पी, यानी कैन द क्रेडिटर सू द प्रिंसिपल डेटर, राइट। अब ये है, अगर हम लोग यहाँ ध्यान से देखें, तो दिस इज with relation to our section 133 of the Indian Contract Act. So section 133 says, without the consent of the guarantor, so the consent of guarantor, the principal debtor and the creditor cannot make any variation in the terms of the contract। तो यहाँ variation is strictly barred, right। और यहाँ देखो वर्ड मैंने क्या यूज किया है, विदाउट द कंसेंट, right। Information though, that's not sufficient, you have to gain the consent of the guarantor if you want to make changes to the terms of the contract, so the variation is strictly barred, right। Some of the people would put this argument, sir, over here if we notice that n had to pay 5,000 plus certain 10% interest, rather if we notice m has reduced the interest rate to 6%। अब बोल रहे sir, this is beneficial to the guarantor, isn't it, because the interest rate has fallen down from 10% to 6%, right। लेकिन आप थोड़ा लीगल लैंग्वेज को देखो, यहाँ भाई वेरिएशन लिखा है, वेरिएशन अलाउड नहीं है। तो अगर विदाउट द कंसेंट ऑफ द गारंटर वेरिएशन इज डन, वेदर बेनिफिशियल और डेट्रीमेंटल, चाहे वो बेनिफिशियल हो और डेट्रीमेंटल हो, बोथ इज स्ट्रिक्टली डिसअलाउड, ये करना नहीं चाहिए था, right। So as soon as there is a variation in the terms of the contract done by the principal debtor and the creditor, right। और यहाँ गारंटर को यू हैव लेफ्ट हिम अंडर द सन, मिस्टर पी, ही डजंट नो कि भाई क्या चल रहा है। सो इफ दिस इज डन, मिस्टर पी इज not liable under the contract, so Mr. P's liability ceases, right। So Mr. P's liability ceases subsequent to variation, yani after the date of variation Mr. P does not stand liable for this contract, right। तो ये बात बड़ी समझने लायक है। So over here P's liability has come to an end। तो यहाँ अगर आप देखना चाहो तो एक ट्विस्ट कहाँ दिया इन लोगों ने, right। M reduces the interest to 6% per annum and does not sue N। ये देखो, ये है ना फंसाने के लिए दिया गया है, इसको आपको इग्नोर मारना है, does not sue N because the Indian Contract Act very clearly states that the creditor can forbear from suing the principal debtor। and this does not discharge the guarantor. तो ये बहुत ही खतरनाक सा सेक्शन है which very very clearly states कि भाई mere forbearance on the part of the creditor to sue the principal debtor does not discharge the guarantor, right? तो ये लाइन पढ़ के आप फंस सकते हो, आप सोचते हो you would start thinking that okay fine, he hasn't sued, right? So that does not, because if you have studied, that says it does not discharge the guarantor, so you may end up thinking that fair enough, it does not discharge the guarantor, so P is still liable, but the fact is that P is not liable because of applicability of section 133 with respect to variation, which is strictly barred, right? So over here the question is very well made, very well formed. It has technically two parts. You have to focus on the variation part and not the forbearance part. So that may give you a second thought, but the question is pretty clear. The moment 133 comes into picture, variation kicks in, so the contract completely comes to an end, and P's liability with respect to anything else, with respect to the further transactions from there on, that is between Mr. M and N, ceases to exist. So that is a wonderful question that they have asked. Pretty simple. So don't fall for the trap over here, the forbearance to sue. Don't put your head on that one, because that may change your answer and put you completely in a wrong track. So be a little careful with respect to the forbearance part, right? So we'll be taking up the forbearance section separately, conditions under which the guarantor is not discharged. So we'll come to that one. Now let us move on to question number 3. Hope this is absolutely clear. Now coming on to question number 3. So question number 3 is very simple. It says choose the correct answer from the following, give reasons. In Indian contract, in a contract of guarantee, as per the Indian Contract Act, there are how many contracts? Super simple, we just studied now 3 contracts. क्या क्या होंगे 3 contracts? प्रिंसिपल डेटर है, यहाँ एक तरफ है क्रेडिटर, एंड ऑन द अदर हैंड देयर इज अ गारंटर. So there are basically 3 parties involving in a 3 contract. Primary contract comes between the principal debtor and the creditor. The secondary contract between the guarantor and the creditor, and the implied contract of indemnity between the principal debtor and the guarantor, which wherein he promises to pay once the guarantor discharges the entire amount to the creditor. तो ये भी बड़ा सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन है, एकदम सुपर सिंपल, राइट? नाउ व्हाट आर द राइट्स ऑफ इंडेमनिटी होल्डर व्हेन सूड? तो बेसिकली 3 तरह के राइट्स मिलते हैं. Again, I'll tell you, it's not at all exhaustive. As I told you, the section regarding indemnity is very very small, does not cover very many things. So what are the rights? तो 3 तरह के rights provide किए गए हैं, right? The right with respect to damages, let me just put it across. So damages, यहाँ क्या हो रहा है? So if there is any damages that the indemnity holder की बात हो रही है, right? So if there are any damages that the indemnity holder has to pay under the lawsuit, the indemnifier will compensate the indemnity holder for such damages paid. Conditions है, बता रहा हूँ. Second है cost. So obviously in furthering a lawsuit, the indemnity holder will obviously bear certain cost with respect to the lawsuit. Can he claim it from the indemnifier? The answer is yes, he can claim it. वो भी उसका एक right है, right? And third is if there is any compensation. So if there is any compensation which is paid in the form of a compromise or settlement done by the indemnity holder, he can claim it from the indemnifier, right? So over here, one is damages, the other is cost, third is compensation, or in the form of a compromise for the purpose of settlement that indemnity holder has to do with a third party. He can claim it from the indemnifier. Conditions बहुत ही straightforward है. Condition बताती है कि that these things can be claimed subject to what? That the indemnity holder should have acted in good faith, right? The thing over here is good faith का मतलब क्या है? मान लो एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं जल्दी से एकदम. मेरे पास एक कार है, राइट? आई हैव इंश्योर्ड दैट कार. नाउ द थिंग इज दैट the car meets an accident, right? मैंने मानो third party insurance cover and I've followed all the insurance rules and norms, and I've taken third party cover as well. So car meets an accident, right? There's an injury caused to the third person. The injury is caused to me as well. Now obviously there is a lawsuit filed between sir and the third party. मानो यहाँ third party का नाम क्या लिखेंगे हम लोग? कुछ भी नाम डाल देते हैं. आयुष, राइट? सो एक्सीडेंट हो गया and Ayush is injured as well. His car also got damaged. My car also got damaged. Now I file a lawsuit, right? Over here, the fault was squarely mine. गलती मेरी थी. I didn't follow the signal. I didn't follow the traffic rules, and I barged in and met an accident. Over here, मुझे पता है मेरी गलती है, right? Just because I have taken an insurance cover, I go ahead with the lawsuit, bear all the cost of filing the suit. Ultimately, obviously, as I'm completely wrong and if fault was all mine, I have to pay damages in the court of law. I will recover just because I'm taking insurance. That's why I want to recover it from the insurance company. Will the insurance company pay the money to me? The answer is absolutely no. Have I acted in good faith? The answer is no. I have not acted in good faith. Moreover, the law further states that had the indemnity cover not been there, would you have acted in the same manner? Obviously my answer would be no. Obviously insurance company अगर insurance नहीं है मैं क्यों risk लूं? तब तो मेरी गलती है, and I'll go ahead and rather not file a suit, right? If you try and understand this, if you know the fault is all yours, why on earth you will go and bear the cost, and why you on earth you will go on to pay damages in the lawsuit? Because you know it's your fault. You will be, at the end of the day, you will be penalized for the same. So had the insurance cover not been there, obviously sir's answer is no, I wouldn't file a suit. If insurance cover is there, sir says, yes, let me give it a try. Any which ways, if I'm losing something, I'll claim it from the insurance company. This is not good faith, right? So it's absolutely wrong on my part if I'm doing this. Same applies for the compensation. Let us just continue with the same example. Sir meets an accident. The other party is Ayush. The car meets an accident over here, right? The car is damaged. Both the parties are injured. Fault again squarely all mine. So in the process of settlement, sir pays to Ayush a certain compensation of rupees 30,000, right? Over here, right? So can I claim it from the insurance company? The answer is no, right? So over here, have I acted in good faith? Again, the answer is no. I am trying to claim it from the just because I have an insurance, I'm trying to claim that money. If you just try to rush through this provision over here, it talks about the right of the indemnity holder. Let us go on to that one. Rights of the indemnity holder: right to recover damages, as I told you. Right to recover damages. The indemnity holder is entitled to recover damages from the indemnifier, which is compelled to pay in a lawsuit in respect of any matter covered by the contract of indemnity, right? If you notice, the second is right to recover cost, right? The indemnity holder is entitled to recover cost from indemnifier of all the costs which he is compelled to pay bringing or defending such a suit, but the indemnified should have acted as a person prudent person acted as a prudent person would have acted under similar circumstances in his own case. वही मैं अभी समझा रहा था. If the insurance cover was not there, my attitude would have been different. That is not good faith, my friends, right? So if we go 125 sub 3, it says the indemnity holder is entitled to recover from the indemnifier all the costs which he has paid under the terms of compromise. So any compensation in the for the compromise, then that can be recovered. However, he must not act contrary to the orders of the promisor, right? उन्होंने बताया उसके विरुद्ध नहीं जाना है. You shouldn't go against what the promisor has said. In this case, the insurance company, and should have acted as a prudent person, imagining if there was no contract of indemnity. That is what I was trying to say, right? So all this can be covered subject to if I have acted as a person of ordinary prudence and in good faith. So these are the three rights that our great indemnity holder has, right? But the thing is, it's by no means the list is exhaustive over here. So we have to understand one more thing that you'll find it in your notes. The Gopal Purushottam case, it's a wonderful case to read. Osman Jamal versus Gopal Purushottam, that talks about one very important thing which is not covered under section 125. The important part is that can you call, that is, can indemnity holder call upon the indemnifier to pay before the indemnity holder himself has to pay? See, let us try and put this across, that I have indemnity holder, I have to pay a sum of rupees 1 lakh. As you all know, I'm a very poor person, right? गरीब आदमी कहाँ से लाएगा 1 लाख रुपए? तो इसके लिए मेरे पास एक indemnifier है who is supposed to pay this amount. Now the indemnifier says to the indemnity holder, by you make the payment first and then I'll compensate you, I'll indemnify you. So over here the thing doesn't make sense. The court of law says the indemnity holder, why he has taken the contract of indemnity, why he has entered into the contract of indemnity, in order to save himself. Let us put this circumstance that if this poor chap, that is me, has to pay 1 lakh, उसी चक्कर में if I don't have 1 lakh, I'll sell my property, become insolvent. Doesn't make any sense. The court says no, it doesn't make any sense. So if the liability has become absolute, the indemnity holder can claim the money from the indemnifier and he needn't shell out the 1 lakh rupee himself.